I dare you to transform your tragedies into triumphs. Easier said than done, right? Hi, my name is Sherry Strayhorn. I'm a poet, I am a writer, but most importantly, I'm a survivor. 5 years ago, the unexpected happened to me. I lost my 2-month-old baby girl. One minute I had this bouncy, jovial, just very active baby girl, and within 24 hours she was on a ventilator with brain damage and then gone. I remember sitting in her hospital room and holding her. I wanted to feel the warmth of her body as it left her. And the colder she got, the colder I began to get emotionally and spiritually. It was a test of my faith. I was angry. I was hurt. I didn't understand. I didn't know how I was going to get through this. At the same time, I had a 5-year-old that I had to look after. I didn't know what to do, didn't know what to say to her, because on tragedy upon tragedy, a year and a half prior to this, her father was suddenly taken away from us with a brain aneurysm. So then here's my baby girl to add to that. I had no answers. I didn't know what to do, didn't know what to believe anymore. I remember sitting in the hospital room with my baby and crying out to God and saying to him, this isn't fair. This just isn't fair. But in my spirit, I heard, you're right. It isn't fair. But favor isn't fair. I wouldn't understand those words at that moment. I also wouldn't understand when I heard that you choose who this should happen to. I wouldn't have wished that pain on anyone. So as I began to work through this thing, I used therapy. I tried to find people I could talk to. I cried it. I held it in. My one release was writing. I've always written. But this time my poetry took on a new life of its own. I became very transparent. I became very vocal through my poetry. I wrote out the pain. I wrote out the brokenness. I wrote out the anger, the guilt, everything I put in that paper. And out of that tragedy, I was able to birth my 4th poetry book when nothing else could help. As I continued on this journey of healing, I continued to read my word. I continued to try to build this faith back up. And as I was reading, I kept coming across the phase, and it came to pass. The more I studied that, the more I concentrated on that, I got the revelation that we all have an it. But we have to understand that it will pass. We don't have to understand the it. We just have to survive the it. For the first time, I realized and I understood what it finally meant to have a peace that surpasses all understanding. Because at that moment, I had a peace that surpassed my need to understand my it. And I could handle my it because going back to that spirit conversation that happened in her hospital room, when God spoke to me and said that favor isn't fair, I realized then that I was favored for my it. And it had nothing to do with me. It all had to do with my calling. It had to do with my purpose. And that my writing at that point became purposeful. It became my calling to inspire others, to encourage others that you can get back up again. You can get through the worst parts of your life. You can overcome the brokenness. You can overcome the tragedies. You can be a winner. Even the things that were set out to destroy you, it only comes to fortify you. It comes to make you bolder so you can tell your story. And that's what it did for me in order for me to help someone else along this path. So, with that being said, this is not the end of my story. This isn't all there is. There's so much more I need to share with you. There's so much more I have to give to the world through my poetry. So what I want you to do is take the time and visit my website at sherrystrayhorn.com. There you will find an encouraging word that is specifically for you. You can also follow me on Facebook at Sherry Strayhorn or at my poetry page at Introducing Enovi the Poet or on Instagram at Enovi the Poet. God bless.